Welcome to Coping with COVID-19. I'm Dr. Allie Sharma, and I've created this interview series as a safe space to share our stories and collectively cope through the COVID-19 pandemic. Please note that this interview series is for informational purposes only, and it's not considered medical advice. Please consult your own provider for any issues you may be facing. And if you are in crisis, please call 911 or call your local emergency services. Today, I'm honored to be joined by Andrew Borsen, who is a partner at Borsen Law, which is a boutique firm concentrating in commercial litigation, corporate transactions, with a specific focus on entertainment, music, hospitality, and social media law. Hi, Andrew. Thank you so much for joining me today on this Zoomcast.
Hi, Dr. Allie, how are you?
I'm good. I'm good. All right. So I'd love to focus on your expertise in the hospitality industry. Obviously, we can only imagine the toll it's taking on businesses and the people who are employed in this area. What are your observations about this industry and potentially staff that are impacted?
I mean, it's really rough. I am a New York City-based attorney, and I represent a bunch of larger and smaller hospitality industries. For example, the Box, House of Yes, Russian Samovar, and it's been extremely tough. Some have closed down altogether. Places like Russian Samovar still offer delivery. Some places um, like Samovar and like Otis in Bushwick, they're open only to the extent that they want to employ, um, certain people that simply cannot get unemployment insurance, and that's what they're doing. They're offering deliveries and supporting their staff. So it's been extremely tough on the hospitality industry, which is essentially in lockdown mode.
Yeah, and what have you seen? I mean, you mentioned a few examples, but what else have you seen in terms of how people are coping with these changes?
I think a lot of people are pivoting and finding creative ways to sort of cope. I mean, places like some of our are doing GoFundMe pages for the restaurant itself. Places like House of Yes, for example, they're doing funding, but they're doing employee-specific funding. So, they would introduce, someone who would work the door, someone who, wasn't exposed to the front end of the business, and introducing, the followers of the people, um, to those employees. House of Yes is also opening up um, a Instagram TV where they're doing episodic episodes. I know that a lot of hospitality entities are using social media, Instagram, GoFundMe pages to sort of get by. I mean, they're really finding creative ways to do it. I just, without more funding or without more assistance, I'm not sure that every single one of my clients are going to survive.
Yeah, and I can imagine too that in that industry, there are some people who are disproportionately affected, right? And so, where is the safety net for them? The people who are cooking in the back, the delivery personnel are at risk in a different way, right? Even if restaurants stay open. So, it sounds like it's still a difficult time and fraught with challenges.
Oh, 100%. I mean, there's also, I have certain restaurants that employ, immigrants who are not here legally, or are waiting for paperwork. I mean, they don't get any benefits. So, they're really struggling. I mean, if the restaurant's closed, they don't have any meaningful way to buy food.
Exactly, exactly. And then that's what we are concerned about. So, to pivot a little bit, let's talk about you. How has your work at your law firm been impacted as a result? And what are you doing perhaps to pivot?
Yeah. I'm certainly lucky. I don't have a unilateral focus. My firm is sort of concentrates on a couple of different things. Certainly, real estate has completely dried up. I've done um, several closings in March. I have two closings in April. And that's it. And I think that's a lot for a lot of realtors, a lot of real estate attorneys, title companies. So that business is going to end, at least temporarily, for June, July, August, or for the foreseeable future. My hospitality business, also very tough. While they're open or they're doing deliveries, they don't have any meaningful way, to pay attorneys. They don't even have meaningful ways to pay for their own staff.
Right.
So I'm doing the best I can to provide assistance pro bono. Also, the CARES Act provides that attorneys, accountants, brokers, whoever, they cannot charge for the services, which is fine with me. But so that's I'm trying to help all my clients with that. But it's against the CARES Act to receive any kind of compensation. So
Mm.
um, I think everyone, attorneys, hospitality people, any industry right now, is trying to find a way to creatively pivot and monetize using um, any kind of available revenue streams. I'm opening up a bankruptcy branch, for example,
Mm.
which I've done in 2008 through 11, and we will see how that goes.
Okay. No, and I understand the need to pivot. I've also pivoted, right, by producing this podcast when I was about to launch another. So I think if people can find creative ways to repurpose themselves for the sake of the greater good and to help people with what's going on, I think that can be powerful. So, final question, any tips to others in the industries that you work, but specifically the hospitality industry, who may be experiencing significant loss, whether that's financial or otherwise?
Yeah, I think a couple of things. I think everything could be viewed as an opportunity. Um, Things are changing by the hour, not even by the day. We don't know what government relief is going to take hold. We don't know where we're going to be, in a week, in a month. I know that things are changing so rapidly already. Like, for example, in my industry, remote notaries are available. My wife is a physical therapist. Telehealth is making, which was never done before, but giving doctors the ability to see people remotely. So I think finding creative ways to somehow leverage technology, leverage relationships. I mean, at the end of the day, I don't go to my favorite place just because it has the best, pasta. I mean, I go for the people, I go for the vibe. I think finding and connecting with the customer base somehow, whether it's remotely or whatever, and finding a creative way and using this time to sort of, possibly finding a creative pivot, is all I can offer right now.
I think that's great advice. I mean, I have noticed that the small businesses that I follow, even in the neighborhood in which I live, I like hearing from them. I like how this is impacting them, or just to hear updates. I think there's power in that connection too,
Right.
because even if I frequent a particular place that I get coffee, okay, used to do that every day, but now that's a loss, right? So it's actually nice to hear from the business owners and just see what they're doing or hear what they're up to. So I agree. I think that's great advice. All right, Andrew, it's lovely to speak with you. Thank you for speaking with us, and I hope it's helpful for people in your industry.
Thank you so much. Stay safe. Please stay healthy. And thank you for having me.
All right, so now let's get clinical. So, what stands out to me in the interview are two things. First is the power of resilience and the ability to pivot during this time if you're able. So, as Andrew mentioned, that he's able to repurpose his time and think about other ways to use his legal knowledge and law degree to help people who may be in need. I mentioned I have already pivoted. If you're able to do this, and especially repurpose for the sake of the greater good, I think that's a powerful thing to do during this time. Obviously, there are those that won't be able to, and we understand that's the case. Now, the second thing that stood out to me is there are those who may be disproportionately affected by the COVID-19 pandemic. In this case, we were talking about the hospitality industry and undocumented immigrants, for one. Or if you've been listening to the media recently, there are other groups in our society, such as African Americans, which emphasize the racial health disparities that already pre-exist. If you have ideas on how to support these groups, it's helpful to hear from you, so please leave comments in the copy below. Our hearts are with all of you who may be significantly affected. I'm Dr. Allie Sharma. Thank you for watching Coping with COVID-19. Please subscribe to Coping with COVID-19 wherever you get your podcasts.